Hello, everyone. Hello, and welcome to another episode of What Are You Going to Do About It? We have a very special guest on today, Sierra Shanette. How are you? Hello to the
I'm
people.
amazing. Oh, you're so kind. You're incredibly gorgeous yourself. That hair is everything.
Oh, thank you. I'm excited. I remember this distinctly. We met a while ago. As background actors on the Tyler Perry, I think, Haves and Haves Nots.
Yes.
Yes.
In like the little extras holding. Yes, I
Mhm.
remember. I met a lot of people that day that I'm still connected to now.
Yeah, so that's been like over a decade.
Yes, it has. It's been a really long time.
Man. Well, thank goodness for Facebook and other forms of social media that helps people stay connected. Because of that, I've been able to kind of watch you and watch from afar and see your story, see your progression, see all the success that you're having in the film and television world. I saw that you recently had like a special shot in some television show. Is that correct?
Oh, yes. I had a very small role, 2 lines, and I'm very proud, on Tough Love Atlanta, which airs on Clio TV and on YouTube. Yes.
2 lines is all that it takes sometimes.
I was
So it's
incredibly excited and grateful. Okay, you have to be grateful for everything.
exactly. What else do you have going on?
Earlier this year, I had a short film called Theme Night premiere, which is a Kenya Hendricks production. So that's
Ooh,
really exciting. And you have your group of girlfriends, and then just having a nice little girls' night in. So that is on YouTube. You can check it out there. And then a couple months after that, my fellow castmates and I co-hosted a movie premiere for Kenya Hendricks' film that followed Theme Night, which is called Thrice. It was so exciting. It was my very first time hosting a movie premiere, and the energy in the room was everything. It felt good. It felt great to share that moment with my screen sisters, and that was everything. In addition to that, I recently became a face ambassador for A. Marie Cosmetics. Take a look.
oh
Take a look.
wow.
Hello.
Look at that.
Get into that. Okay.
And
Got
you're
your
wearing it right now?
razzle-dazzle. Yes, I am. I'm wearing it right now. My favorite color from the line is Surrender, which is this line here, which is actually perfect for fall. We're transitioning. It's time to start getting those fall looks and fall colors. So you can go to a-mariecosmetics.com, and that is a lip color line by April 4th.
Well, it explains why you're serving face today.
Thank you so much.
All right, let's get into it. As you know, the premise of the show is simple. We ask 3 questions. What was the problem? How did you identify it? And what did you do about it? And for those of you who are joining us for the first time, the reason why I asked that question about how did you identify it is because so many times we are going through things and we just go through the motion and we don't always realize, okay, something's wrong. This is not how I should be living. This is not how I should be feeling. And then some event, whether it's a human being, a person, whether you just wake up in the morning, you get sick and tired of being sick and tired, something happens that makes you say, I have a problem and I need to do something about it. So without further ado, I am going to send it over to you to tell us what was your problem and how did you identify it?
Whew. Now this is going to be a bit of a journey, ladies and gentlemen. What was the problem? The problem, I'm going to identify it as not speaking up for myself in a proper time, at the right time. I am a abuse survivor from verbal abuse as well as sexual abuse and revenge porn. For people who don't know, revenge porn is when someone takes a explicit photo or video of someone and publicizes it. So that happened to me all before the age of 15, which is a very, very critical time in a young lady's life. I'm starting high school. I'm trying to come into myself, and I've dealt with all of that before even starting 10th grade, right? So that those issues and those traumas led to me just kind of becoming a recluse about halfway through 9th grade. And, you know, I was always like a shining star, always very big personality, even as a child, always bubbly and always just in high energy. That's just naturally who I am. If you know me, or you know, you've been around me, I do my best to just shine my light on people, because you never know who needs just a little light, you know. And even though I shine my light, if you meet me, I may need a little of your light in that day, in that moment. You know what I mean? We have to kind of ignite one another. And the summer after 9th grade, I began exhibiting, you know, signs of not being my regular self, not being my usual jovial, high energetic self. And, you know, I don't know how and why, but my mom picked up on it. And eventually it led to me being taken to like child psychiatrists. And it was identified that I had bipolar disorder. Now,
so let me ask you a question. So when you became a recluse, you started kind of pulling in, did it register to you at all that something was wrong? Or was it because, like, you know, because of the trauma, like you had no type of, you know, mental awareness of what was going on with you?
I had no mental awareness. Like everything happened, and like when it was a Polaroid photo of me that was publicized by someone that I trusted. And you know, we're only 14 years old. It's January 2000, halfway through 9th grade. So like I remember having a conversation with a friend, and he was like going on and on. He was like, you know, captain of the football team and homecoming court. And he was like, Sierra, you didn't have a good time in high school? And I said, no. You know, that's supposed to be a time in your life where you have all these good times and all these good memories. And I do have that, but it was definitely overshadowed by the burden I had to bear from, you know, becoming essentially a laughing stock in my high school. Yeah, so I wasn't necessarily like, okay, yeah, I'm having a mental health moment, or, oh, I'm developing bipolar disorder. You know, I'm only 14. And even though there's a history of mental illness, particularly on my paternal side of the family, I wasn't familiar with it firsthand to be able to identify it in any way, or to express to either my parents, siblings, or someone I trusted, like, hey, I think something's going on with me. And also, I want to note, to be honest, like my loved ones did not know about the revenge porn until I was an adult. So it happened at 14, and I think I told my parents, I was almost 30. You know, so in recent years, I've wondered if I'd had just the strength to speak up for myself, which is what I said is the problem at age 14 when it happened. Even though it's a shocking thing, like it overcomes you for someone that you trusted and loved so much to betray you in that way. You know, as a 14-year-old girl, I just did not know what to do. Funny thing, I rewatched a movie that I'm a fan of, and a character in the movie, she became a victim of revenge porn. She had an affair, and the gentleman recorded the sexual act as a way to try to blackmail her husband. Now, in the movie, it's a movie. In the movie, she murdered the gentleman who exposed her in that way. And I'm just like, oh my God, like it never became like a physical thing where I tried to fight the person who did it to me, but I'm just like, I get it. You know, watching that moment again in that movie, being exposed in that way, it's gut wrenching, and it just you feel like everyone knows, you know. Right. So, up until December 1999, my high school days were glorious. It was great. And then after January 2000, once I was violated in that way for 3.5 years, I love my high school, but I just always felt exposed. And I mean, it happened at the beginning of the year 2000. So after a week or two, no one cared anymore. You know what I mean? It was old gossip by then, right? But it's been something that's been etched on my heart, and a wound that I will always carry for the rest of my life, because that moment was like the final straw, in a sense, that led to me full-fledged developing a mental illness, excuse me, that, you know, I've had to, that's in a sense, a part of my identity in a way for the last 22 years. And I always ask myself, like, who do I become without those wounds, right?
Mm-hmm.
We all have pain. We all got pain.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we all have a life, a journey, hills and valleys. But I'm just like, yeah, we don't question, you know, we don't question God. But I'm just like, well, why was I expected to be this strong?
Right,
like,
right.
One blow, okay. A second blow, all right. But 3 major blows,
Mm-hmm.
you know, different types of abuse at such a young age, it's just, right. Yeah, you know what? I'm going to tell myself I'm just incredibly strong. Yeah. I don't think that's anything I ever thought of, you know. At this age of 36, I'll be 37 in November. Mm-hmm. You know, I talk about mental health and mental illness and my personal journey in particular pretty often on Facebook. I'm so grateful. I will say summer 2000 when I was diagnosed, I never really looked to my left or my right, like, hey, are people talking about this? Do other people have this? I never really thought about it like that. When I was diagnosed and I was having different issues and I was having psychotic episodes even at the age of 14, and I was hospitalized at a hospital in Metro New Orleans. I'm from New Orleans, Louisiana, and I was hospitalized in River Oaks Adults Children Mental Health Hospital quite a few times throughout high school. So, you know, it's happening over the summer. That's one thing. So that's 7 days in the behavioral health center as they're known now, but, you know, otherwise known as psych wards, psychiatric wards, crazy house, behavioral health, wherever you stand. So if it's over the summer, you know, my family visits, and once I'm released, life goes back to normal. Right. But then when I began 10th grade, August 2000, I had, of course, been put onto antipsychotic medication. I believe maybe one of the first medications they put me on was Risperdal, or whatever combination of medications they put me on caused me to gain a substantial amount of weight. So when I left 9th grade, I was a size 6. And then when I came back for 10th grade, I was a size 10. So I was 2 dress sizes larger. And I mean, heck, as a grown woman, 2 dress sizes larger is 2 too many. So imagine being 14 and I'm coming back to school and I'm almost unidentifiable because of the weight gain. I now wear glasses, so that's a thing. And I went to school for 2 days. We used to start school on the Thursday, Friday for like admin days. And by that Monday morning, I was like freaking out. I was on the brink of another psychotic episode. So now I'm being hospitalized, but I'm missing a week of school. And everybody's like, well, where you been? And I have to kind of be like, oh, well, you know, I had the flu. So there would be times in high school where I'm gone for the school week. And then when I come back, I have to lie about where I've been because I'm 15, 16, 17 years old. And I'm not ready to tell other teenagers that I'm essentially, pardon my term, I've been in the loony bin, if you will. You know what I mean?
Let me ask you a question. Sure. Okay. So for those who do not understand bipolar disorder, can you first tell us what it is? Yes. And then second, in your case, and I guess this depends on what it is and, you know, how it comes about. But in your case, was it a situation where it was activated basically by the traumas, like it was already in you or a part of your DNA, and then it was just activated by those traumas? Or was it a matter of the traumas made you have the bipolar disorder? If that makes sense.
Yes, no, it totally makes sense. I'm going to say it's a combination of both. Like I shared, mental illnesses is prevalent on my paternal side, on my dad's side of the family, you know, in an array of ways. So it was already there. But as a child, I was not having psychotic episodes until after 9th grade. So I mean, I guess you can say it's DNA impacted, but with bipolar disorder, it's a chemical imbalance that just causes you to have issues. So there's bipolar 1, which is more of a depressive state, and bipolar 2, which is more of a manic or active, or, you know, maybe you'll see someone in the unhoused community in downtown Atlanta, and they're just a little more frantic, just a little more, you know, the person where you see them walking down the street and maybe you'll kind of sidestep them, you know, it's just a real frantic thing. So it's two distinctive ones, and I have bipolar 2 disorder. So I remember speaking with the doctor a couple years back, and she said, well, Sierra, yours is more situational, like you said, where these different traumas I experienced kind of led to the mental illness kind of presenting itself. So that for me, it's just like, you know, I always wonder, who is the young girl prior to these things happening? Like, who does that young lady become? You know, and I remember I had a friend, Michael, he would just be like, Sierra, just be that. Just be whoever you think that young lady becomes. Just be that. Just be that. And I would try my damnedest, but it's almost like I have no idea who she is. Like, who am I before my trauma? You know what I mean?
I can relate to that. I experienced that. And I often talk to some of my friends and my husband about it as well. Like, what had happened? What could I have become if I wasn't molested, or, you know, if my father was or didn't deny me and was a part of my life, or, you know, the multiple times being raped and molested. You know, that trauma, like you said, it stays with you. You know, and it isn't something that you necessarily forget. Like, it's a part, it becomes a part of your DNA, and it stays with you throughout your life. And like for me, I went to therapy. You know, I believe in therapy. I'm a big advocate for it. And the funny thing about it is, you go to therapy and, you know, you usually go for a specific problem to solve a specific problem that you're dealing with. And you're like, okay, I'm good. And the trauma then manifests itself in other ways. So it's like, it's this constant, it's not a burden for me. I don't consider it a burden, but it is a constant, like, evolution, you know, because you're constantly finding out new things about yourself. It's like, okay, I need to go get a tune-up. This issue. So for you, you know, how do you manage it today? Like, you know, what did you do about the problem? I know that you said earlier on your mom was the one who, you know, took you to a therapist or a psychiatrist.
Yes.
But today, as an adult, what do you do for yourself? Like, what do you do about this problem that you have?
Yes. Just like you, I am a very strong supporter of therapy, whatever form of therapy you need. I don't think people realize there's many different forms of therapy. So that's something to discuss as well. But I love talk therapy. I always say my therapists are my best friends. They're my safest confidants, you know? So I began, of course, talk therapy at the age of 14. That was one of the very first things that happened when I began exhibiting signs of mental illness. And for me, I always thought therapy would be an always thing. And then I had one therapist who said, no, she said, you get what you need for a course of time and you apply. So I actually have not had talk therapy since October. My last therapist, she's actually, bless her, she's in Asia doing therapy for kids overseas. So when she told me that, I was like, okay, this is application time. This is my time to take all these years and very different therapists that I've had over different times and take what they've taught me and the ways they've helped shape the way I see problems and, you know, the way they've helped me journey through these different traumas. Excuse me. I had to kind of tell myself, like, okay, Sierra, these things happened to you when you were age 7, when you were age 9, when you were age 14. I'll be 37. It has to come a point for me, my journey, where I stop wallowing in it, maybe, where I stop allowing it to hurt. I have, like, the pain has to subside at some point, right? It'll always be there. The scar will always be there. The battle wound will always be there. I'll always have these things attached to me, associated with me, and in some way they're gonna rear their ugly heads, right? But at the same time, it doesn't have to be the main part of my identity.
It doesn't define you.
Yeah, exactly. It's a part of my story, but there's so many other great chapters in this book of my life, you know, so many other great things that I can focus on, dwell on, and highlight. I personally plan to always be a mental health advocate. I am so ecstatic that it's at the forefront of our conversations these days, the way that it is, you know, encouraging people among the African American community to seek out talk therapy or whatever form of therapy they desire, dance therapy, music therapy, art therapy, whatever works for you. You know, I'm a firm believer that I need to pray and I need to journal. I need to talk to my therapist and my pastor. I need to minister to gospel music in a sanctuary, but sometimes I might need to do a little two-step to a little whatever that needs to be, whether that's a little, you know, New Orleans music or whatever it's going to be. Like, I just need to release. You know what I mean? Yeah. So that's very important. It's like within our community, we bottle things up. It's always, you know, what happens in this house stays in this house. And we don't discuss our business. And why would I tell a stranger about what's going on with me, honey? Your therapist is one of the safest people in your life. Your therapist is someone who is going to set you straight without any type of bias. So, you know, some people are like, well, I talk to my spouse or my best friend or whomever, but they still have some sort of bias in their advice. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So I always tell people that, you know, they say the number one killer of African Americans is like heart disease or cancer. And I'm like, no, the number one killer of African Americans are secrets. Because we hold on to that stuff and it causes cancer. It causes heart disease. You know what I mean? It causes eating disorders, diabetes. Like, it affects our health in so many different ways. So I'm convinced, like, I may share too much, but I'm okay with that because I refuse to be bound by what has happened to me and what other people have done to me. It's not on me. It's on them. I don't own it. They have to. So I can relate to what you're saying so much.
Yeah, same with me. I can definitely relate to your journey. I didn't realize we had such similar journeys too. But it's like you don't have to be, you know, restricted by your past. You don't have to be held down by your pain. Like, push through whatever way you see fit. I think something I don't like the word regret, but something that weighs heavy on me is that I allowed my traumas to weigh me down so long. You know what I mean? I remember I don't know what was going on in my life, but I just remember stepping outside one day and the grass was greener and the sky was bluer. And it was just this calm over me. You know, it was just this sense of peace. And things just were different. You know, my senses were different and heightened in a way where I just felt free. You know what I mean? And we spoke, you spoke as to how secrets can manifest into illnesses. One of my favorite songs by India Irie is Get It Together. You want to heal your body, you have to heal your heart. And I remember, you know, having a conversation with my mom. I don't even remember what we were talking about, but just having a conversation with her, a calm conversation. And whatever the exchange was, I could feel the pain leaving my chest. And I was just like, whoa, like, I need some more of that. Like, and I'm like, well, who else do I need to have a conversation with? Because I have some things to say, you know, and because that's just me, I'm going to have something to say. But, you know, we want to, in this day and age, this generation, it's, well, I don't need to talk to that person. They know what they did and all this, that, and the third, and whatever. And we're so dismissive of one another's feelings. And we're so prideful and foolish that, you know, one conversation can really fix a lot of things, you know, and I'm the type of woman, the type of friend where if it's fixable, let's fix it, you know? So if all we need is an exchange, one conversation, an in-depth conversation, one-on-one, where we get to the root of where we fell short, then okay. You know what I mean? Including the individual like who violated me with the revenge porn. They apologized when we were about 21, 22 years old. And I just remember thinking, maybe I shed some tears, and I just remember thinking, I thought it would feel better than this. Right. I thought when they apologized or owned up to what they did that I'd feel a little freer, that I'd be a little more empowered by that apology. And I wasn't. Hell, like I was 22 at the time. I can't add that fast. So it's 2007, I believe. That sounds about right. But you know, even after that apologies or what have you, I'm still on. I still have psychotic episodes, and you know, I still get put on medication and go through that journey. And it's like, it's interesting because that when that happened, be it whichever form of trauma I experienced, it's like those individuals slept well that night. They hurt me, violated me, disrespected me, and threw me away, essentially. So they sleep, they don't lose a wink of sleep. But the things they did to me meet me in my dreams. So they get to live a life free from what they did to me. And then, you know what, I remember I used to wish ill, honestly, the person who did the revenge porn. I think I told them this, but I used to wish ill, honestly, God forgive me. I used to wish ill over their children. When we were still in high school, I would probably think to myself, like, I hope whomever their children are goes through this pain that they are putting me through. And I had to ask God for forgiveness, because that's just not the way, right? That's not for me to call upon, like for me to think or say or speak that, it'll find me, you know? So whatever those individuals' karma is gonna be for what happened, whether it's in this lifetime or the next, that's not for me to try to conjure up. You know what I mean?
I think it goes back to, you know, no matter how horrific, whatever experience you've gone through, you have to get to a place where you can forgive. Doesn't mean that you forget, because those memories will be with you forever. Hopefully they don't terrorize you, and you can kind of like put them in their boxes and use the tools that you've been given through therapy to deal with them. But you have to forgive so that you can sleep at night, and so that you're not terrorized in your dreams. So so I think that's an important lesson for everyone to just keep with them, because like you said, even when the person apologized, it didn't do anything. It didn't hit the way you thought it was gonna. It didn't give what you thought it was gonna give, right? So yeah, I think that's just such an important point for people to take away from this. So one of the things that's also, you know, that I'm a strong advocate of, I joke around and call people crazy as in crazy funny, but I don't believe in calling people crazy, you know, or, you know, like you said, the loony bin. Like, I don't believe in, you know, embracing some of those negative connotations that come along with mental health, because I believe that they're damaging, and it's part of the reason why, you know, people don't get the help that they need when dealing with mental health struggles. So with that, I know that you said that you continue to do therapy, whatever form that is, whether it's through the arts, and you may have to start back talking to someone one day, but you're not doing that right now. I guess if you could envision your future, what does your future look like while dealing with this mental health struggle that's going to be with you forever?
Yeah, it's definitely with me forever. So what does my life look like as bipolar 2?
Yeah, what if you could see into a crystal ball, what does your life look like?
It's advocacy. My focus these days is on my art as an actor and on my mental health advocacy. So it's important to me that we just continue to educate. Like there's been times where I'll maybe a coworker or someone, and I'll share with them that I have bipolar disorder, and they're like, "What? You don't look like you have a mental illness." And it's like, well, what do you think it looks like? Like,
Right.
Not to be funny. I know you say you don't make your jokes, but I just don't wear a straight jacket every day. I've never seen a straight jacket in my life. So for me, as someone who has regularly been a patient at a behavioral health center, aka psychiatric wards, it bothers me. It bothers me when I'm watching a music video or a television show and a mentally ill person is being portrayed to that extreme. I'm sure
Right.
I would imagine that maybe straitjackets are a little more antiquated practice. So like when it's being shown, in the arts and it's that way, I'm just like, I'm kind of rolling my eyes, right? But then someone posted recently that there was like a TikTok trend where people were in the behavioral health centers and like dancing around. I was like, wait, what? They can have their phones. That's new for me. Now, that's a whole different situation, right? But people just have this idea that, one, it could never be them or someone they know or love, or that it looks a certain way. And it can be well-dressed, eloquent, beautiful, everyday women like yourself and me, you know what I mean? Or it can be, that relative who never comes out of the basement, right? It can be that too. It can be anybody. And that's the thing. Mental wellness is a thing for us all. So a person may not have a clinically diagnosed mental illness, but like anything can happen at any time. Just like when we have beloved soldiers who come home and they develop some form of whatever PTSD or what have you. So it can happen to any type of person, any everyday person, and at any age. I know, like at the beginning of the quarantine, I was watching some sort of documentary on like grade school children that had extreme mental illnesses. It was so heartbreaking. Like, the parents were just at their wits' end. They did not know what to do. They could not. No combination. I'm so sorry. Can you see me? I'm sorry.
Yes.
No combination of medication was working for the children. And they just couldn't get the babies leveled, right? Because that's the goal. That's the goal of my journey that I know of. When you have a mental illness, the idea is to get you leveled. Because like I said, bipolar disorder is a chemical imbalance. So we're trying to get you not zombied out. You don't want to be zombied out, because sometimes I have gone to a behavioral health center and they'll give me a cocktail of medication. And maybe I do need it the first or second day once I get there. But day 4, once I'm able to advocate for myself, I'm able to say, no, thank you. I don't need 4 or 5 medications. Please give me only the one medication that I was prescribed prior to me being admitted into this hospital, right? Because that's another thing. Advocacy for yourself when you're the patient, when you're the mental health patient. And like in one of my last hospitalizations, the doctor, she tried to re-diagnose me to say that I may say the wrong thing, but just to say that I had a different disorder. And I said, no, I think I questioned her like that. Do not be afraid to ask questions on your own behalf to medical personnel. And we can go on and on, okay? But that's a whole nother conversation. And I was just like, well, where is she getting this from? When you're in a behavioral health center, you're depending on how it's set up, there's rooms, and with beds, you may have a roommate, you may not. Excuse me. It may be co-ed. For the first time in my life, a few years ago, I went to a behavioral health center that housed children, teens, and adults. I hadn't seen that before. And so that was new for me. Unfortunately, that facility closed down. But like when we would leave our area to go to the cafeteria for lunch, I could see the kids, playing and whatever, what have you. But like, don't ever be afraid, whether it's a mental health personnel or a gynecologist or whatever, to ever say, you know what, I'm not too sure about this opinion. Get a second opinion. at all times, no matter what the medical issue is, right?
Right.
I don't know what led that that doctor to think or feel as though I needed to be re-diagnosed, or I don't know if that's something that happens after so many years, but yeah, I'm not sure what led her to that, but it was something that I said, no,
that you rejected.
I did. I rejected it. Or even, you know, a different hospitalization of mine where they had me on medication. And once I was in outpatient care with my same therapist who I last spoke with in October, who's in Asia, we were like looking over the medication and she was like, well, why did they give you this? I said, I have no idea. I am not going to fill this prescription. They were just, honestly, I don't want to put fear into someone who needs to be admitted, but they were just kind of randomly prescribing me something without really getting to the root of what I needed. So, I mean, yeah, I'm listening.
So that brings me to my last question. So we know with the pandemic, a light has been shown on mental health like never before, because like you said, like the numbers are astronomical and we're seeing it in children and in elderly people alike. Like, you know, it's not prejudice, like it can attack anyone. But what I've also been reading up on is that, you know, they're closing more and more mental health facilities and they are putting people in prison.
Oh my God.
And yeah, like, you know, like you said, like people who may, the unhoused population, like rather than helping them get the mental health they need, they put them in jail, you know, so, you know, they lock people up. So, you know, with your advocacy and with your firsthand knowledge, like how do you see mental health being addressed in the future? And also, if you could lobby the government, what would you like to see?
If I could lobby the government, we definitely need more facilities. I remember at one point trying to just get an appointment, a 60-minute appointment with a therapist, and it was like 3-4 months out. And I just remember making a Facebook post sharing that, and essentially sharing with my Facebook friends that our mental health journeys are, the responsibility of it is largely on ourselves, because there's never gonna, or I don't want to say never, but there are far more people who need therapists than there are therapists. But thankfully nowadays we have additional resources. Like, I'm happy that the suicide hotline has its new short number. I don't know if you're familiar. So that's a step in the right direction. I often do the NAMI walk, National Alliance on Mental Illness, here in Atlanta. So the same way that we have AIDS walk and we have breast cancer walks, we do an annual walk here in Atlanta in October for mental health awareness. And I'm looking forward to doing it this fall. So you asked me what I would do to lobby the government. We need these institutions open. We need them open. The one that I said that closed, it was the closest facility to my home. I don't know how long it's been there, but my mom and I didn't even know about it. I would get taken to other facilities around Metro Atlanta, including Grady Hospital. And there was one right here in our backyard, right here in our county. And I'm just like, how did we not know about this? You know, like the resources need to be there. They need to happen. It's very important that that is much more accessible. So that's what we need. We need accessibility, awareness, so that so that people are welcomed more so with open arms. Now, what I've done on my personal journey in 2012, this is crazy, 10 years ago, I founded Abyss Advocacy. Abyss is assisting in the battle against a silenced stigma. And I put that into motion, I believe, January 2012. And then we ended up co-hosting an event called A Beautiful Mind with my fraternity brothers at the Kappa chapter of Delta Sigma Pi at Georgia State University. Shout out to my fraternity brother, Ryan Fields, who helped me co-plan the event, where we had 3 poets write poems that explain what a day in the life of a mentally ill person is like. And they did their beautiful poems, and then the audience had to guess which mental illness was being described. And after the poets performed, it was incredible. I got to share some of my journey with the attendees, you know, just a local Georgia State University students, as well as my fraternity brothers. And it felt good to be able to share that. And even if it just helped one person sit down and say, you know what, maybe I should get a therapist. Maybe I should consider getting on medication, or maybe if it just struck one maybe for one person, we did what we set out to do.
Right.
And thankfully that event went on to win a Royal Flame Award at Georgia State University that same semester. I'm sorry?
No, I just said, wow, that's, I went to
on.
State as well. I don't think we exchanged that.
Yeah, so that's crazy to me that it's been a decade, but you know, we need more of that. We need more of mental wellness is a part of everyone's life, not just people with diagnosed illnesses, not just people on one extreme. You know what I mean? It's Asperger's, it's OCD, it's ADHD, and I don't know if people realize that it's not just schizophrenia. You know, it's a myriad of things, and there's a lot of ways that it shows up in us, and we have to get comfortable talking about it. I don't know if we still have more time, but I've had a couple situations where I've had 2 different psychotic episodes, and it led to 2 of my friendships ending. Where in different times of my life, in 2009, November 2009, and then again in November 2018, 9 years apart, 2 different people, where they weren't familiar with mental illness in that way. They did not necessarily witness my psychotic episode, but in one situation, the friend was just being protective of you know, herself and her loved ones. It was the same situation for both of them, I presume. I just spoke with the 2009 friend recently, and you know, they shared with me that them and their family were not familiar with psychotic episodes and you know, things of that nature happening, and she just didn't know how to process it, you know. And I get that. I'm okay with people not knowing. Ignorance I can handle. That just simply means you don't know. I cannot stomach someone who isn't willing to know. If you're not willing to learn and be open and accepting and just have a sliver of desire to understand, that's not something I can't, my stomach can't churn that. You know what I mean? So for them to, you know, come to me, and we recently reconciled, like literally yesterday or day before this weekend, we reconciled, and I'm grateful that they were able to say, we did not understand, but I'm willing to understand.
Right. Well, that's awesome. Well, I'm a person that is glass half full at all times. And I really pray that we get to the point where, like you said, like you silence the shame and get rid of the stigma, because just like, you know, there are people who've had mental health crisis, and they've done, you know, unsavory things. There are many people who have disabilities and struggle with mental health issues who go on to do great things. And I often look at, you know, these mental disabilities as mental abilities. Like I think about some of the people who suffer from dyslexia or autism, and their ability to just like hone in and focus on this one thing and, you know, revolutionize that one thing or make it the best possible thing that that people have ever seen. Like I just wish sometimes that I could be as good as they are. You
have this platform. This is your greatness.
Oh, well, thank you. But I'm just saying, like, I just want I want us all to get to a point. Like I think calling, and one of my other friends said this, calling someone crazy is lazy.
Mm.
There are layers to it. Like, it's not as simple as labeling someone as crazy, you know?
Yeah.
So again, that's why, like, for me, like, I try to like stay away from the terms and try to stand up for people as much as I can and be an advocate. But with that, I want to thank you for sharing your story with us, and thank you for being on What Are You Going to Do About It? We really appreciate you. Your spirit is infectious, and I appreciate your upbeat attitude at all times, and your stories on Facebook. So they always do like this.
I'm a little Facebook comedian, and I have a good time on there. But thank you. I am incredibly honored that you felt my story was worthy, and I'm grateful to you for sharing parts of your story as well.
Oh, of course, of course. All right, people, that is all the time we have for today. Thank you so much for joining us. Remember, if there is a crisis, if there's anything you're going through, if you need help, remember to always ask yourself, what am I going to do about it? All right, bye.